moving forward, let's talk about the foreign exchange market. So the foreign exchange market, or simply Forex, is a global market for exchanging national currencies with one another. It consists of network of international banks as well as currency traders, making Forex as the largest, most liquid market in the world. Most liquid, or the term liquidity, means how quickly an asset can be easily converted into cash. Just like stocks, where they can be immediately sold in an open market via the Forex. The three largest foreign exchange markets are in London, New York, and Tokyo, followed by Hong Kong, Singapore, and Bahrain, wherein this Forex caters to the foreign exchange needs of certain regions of the world, where they are located, basically. The foreign exchange market is a 24-hour market with international financial institutions connected by means of sophisticated telecommunication systems that enable instant, real-time exchange rate quotations. Again, making it the most liquid market. Now let's talk about the exchange rate. An exchange rate is the rate at which one currency can be exchanged for another currency. So one thing about exchange rate is when a currency is appreciated or depreciated. So what do I mean? So here's a particular exchange rate for our Philippine peso for the first quarter of 2024 and fourth quarter of 2023. And as you can see here, we have 56.06 per dollar. And in this particular record, we have 55.96 per dollar. And that represents an appreciation. So why? So here's another look. So if we have 50 to 45 peso a dollar, it represents an appreciation or strengthening of our peso, which means that we have lesser dollar because of its weaker demand. If from 45 to 50 peso a dollar, it represents a depreciation or weakening of the peso. Why? There is a higher demand for dollar because of its lower supply. Okay, so you might have read these various articles relating to our Philippine peso. So now let's have this particular talk. Usapang peso. So let's talk about the benefits as well as the negative effects of having a strong peso. So let's start with the benefits. So one, cheaper imports. If we have a stronger peso, it makes imports less expensive, and it is beneficial to businesses when they are importing their raw materials abroad. Next, lower consumer prices. The strong peso has translated to lower consumer prices, providing relief to the Filipinos. Number three, mild inflation. The appreciation of the peso can temper inflationary pressures emanating from imported goods as well as international commodity prices. And number four, lowering foreign debt servicing. Since foreign debt is dominated in the US dollar and other currencies, a stronger peso translates to a lower interest and principal payments. Next, negative effects of a strong peso. One, more expensive exports. Price in our local currency, Philippine exports become more expensive and less competitive as a result of a strong peso. Number two, less competitive BPO. An appreciation of the peso may make our business process outsourcing BPO sector less competitive against outsourcing powerhouses like India. Three, less value for OFW remittances. A strong currency reduces the peso value of cash remittances from our overseas Filipino workers. And number four, restrains development of local industries. Too strong peso may hamper the development of important local industries such as tourism, manufacturing, and agriculture. Know that among these local industries, tourism and manufacturing contributes much in our current account, thereby contributing to our overall balance of payments. Now, let's talk about the components of the foreign exchange market. So we have here spot market or spot rate and forward market or forward rate. So for spot market, trades currencies on a real-time basis for immediate delivery. For forward market, enables purchases and sales of currencies in the future with prices established at the previous time. So in spot market, it is simply like this. I purchase a particular asset now at that particular price, and it must be immediately delivered to me. As for the forward market, it's simply like this. I purchase an asset at the current time at its current price, but it will only be delivered to me at a future point in time. So regardless of the fluctuations that will happen and which might affect the price of that particular asset, okay, the transaction is already established. Now let's talk about money and inflation. So this is in Filipino para mas dama. So you might be wondering, bakit hindi na lang mag-imprenta ng maraming pera? Pag mas maraming pera, maggamit ito ng gobyerno para mas mapaunlad pa ang bansa. Mas maunlad na bansa, mas maraming trabaho. Pag may trabaho, may pera, mga mayaman, mamamayan rather, para pambili ng mga pangailangan, mas gaganda ang ekonomiya ng bansa. Well, the thing is, hindi pwede yun. Why? Too much printing of money will cause inflation. So inflation is the sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services typically purchased by consumers. It measures how fast overall prices are rising. And when the supply of money exceeds the demand for goods and services, the prices of goods and services can rise. Since we're still talking about the international monetary system, let's talk about one of its foundation, the Bretton Woods system. Under the Bretton Woods system, gold was the basis for the US dollar and other currencies were pegged to the US dollar's value. And as we previously discussed, the wealth of a nation is attributed to the amount of gold it has, right? Anyway, so the Bretton Woods system effectively came to an end in the early 1970s when President Richard M. Nixon announced that the US would no longer exchange gold for US currency. So why? It's basically that there is a concern that the US gold supply was no longer adequate to cover the number of dollars in circulation. The Bretton Woods System Agreement also created two important organizations, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. So while the Bretton Woods system was dissolved in the 1970s, we have the IMF and the World Bank as strong pillars for the exchange of international currencies. Now, let's talk about the fiat system we are now implementing versus the gold standard system previously implemented under the Bretton Woods system. So for the gold standard, it refers to a monetary system in which the value of currency or paper money is based on gold. With the gold standard, countries agreed to convert paper money into a fixed amount of gold. A country that uses the gold standard sets a fixed price for gold and buys and sells gold at that particular price. Next is the fiat system, which is a monetary system in which the value of currency is not based on any physical commodity, but is instead allowed to fluctuate dynamically against other currencies on the foreign exchange markets. And that makes fiat money having no intrinsic value. So it's just like our Philippine peso. Let's say we have that 1,000 peso. That 1,000 peso doesn't mean that it is actually 1,000, right? If we talk about the material used for the production of such polymer money, it doesn't cost 1,000 at all. It is only 1,000 because it is backed by the government, which makes that piece of polymer paper a legal tender. And when I talk about a legal tender, it means that that piece of paper, that piece of polymer paper can be used as a means of transaction, can be used for buying and selling. So continuing with the Bretton Woods system, in January 1976, the IMF members adopted the Jamaica Agreement, which ushered in a reformed international monetary order, wherein members could adopt their own exchange system. Two, a system of global fixed exchange rates would only be implemented if approved by a vote of 85% of membership. Three, gold would no longer be a common denominator of the monetary system. And four, the special drawing right or SDR created by the IMF was recommended as the primary reserve asset of the international monetary system. Okay, not gold this time. So the special drawing rights or SDR is an international reserve asset, which means that it is an external asset that are readily available to and be controlled by the monetary authorities, particularly by the IMF and by the World Bank for meeting balance of payments, financing needs, for intervention in exchange markets to affect the currency exchange rate. Anyway, so the IMF created SDR in 1969 to supplement its member countries' official reserves. To date, a total of 660.7 billion, equivalent to about 943 billion US dollars have been allocated. The value of the SDR is based on a basket of five currencies: the US dollar, euro, Chinese renminbi, the Japanese yen, and the British pound sterling. Finally, let's talk about the monetary policy of the Philippines. So, monetary policy is used to manage the supply and cost of money and credit. It is used to influence overall demand for goods and services, and it is used to attain price stability. And in the case of monetary policy in the Philippines, you can think it like this. Faucet being the monetary policy in being implemented, BSP as the person controlling the faucet, and the water as the supply of money in our economy. As previously mentioned, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas has the power to control the flow of money in circulation. They can do that by either contracting or expanding the flow of money. Contractionary action is done when there is too much money in the economy. Remember that when there is too much money in circulation, it will help in increasing inflationary pressures. So to address that, the BSP tightens the faucet to reduce the money supply. So this action dampens demand, which could lead to lower inflation. So to do so, the BSP implements higher interest rates. This imposition will lead to less lending and borrowing, which will lead to more savings and less spending. The second one is expansionary action. This is done when there is too little money in the economy, which dampens overall demand for goods and services. So with that, the BSP loosens the faucet to expand money supply. So to do so, the BSP lowers interest rates. When that happens, there will be more lending as well as borrowing, which will lead to less savings and more spending. These are the words of the former Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno, stating that For central bankers, understanding inflation dynamics in relation to other economic variables is crucial. Most, if not all, central bankers will agree with me that controlling inflation is a demanding task. Yes, the central bank can influence inflation by tightening and easing monetary policy. To sum it up, a stable international monetary system and exchange rates are key to smooth global trade and economic growth.